so that it becomes a real life experience of what the terms we see in practice. Does that make sense?
Because you're fundamentally, if you're going to be training this to other people, what you have to be able to do is to identify what are you doing, content, feeling, positive intent, timeline, what are these things that you're doing? How do they fit into this thing?
So feel free to try different ones as you go about it. Okay? All right. I had trouble sleeping last night because I was really worried about how my activity was going to go off today.
Are you going to go first?
No, I think we should just jump in. Somebody should jump in. But
So
be aware not to let just somebody be the only one answering. So,
make it easy for me.
really?
It'll be easier if I keep videotaping.
Yeah, the idea is for me.
What's that?
Go.
Okay, how about we do this? We go from person to person, and if you can't think of something, you say, I pass. you wouldn't rather, you know.
I just don't feel.
Okay.
So I don't want to get down.
Okay. Well, and that's okay. You can opt out and just be observing. And in fact, you could be our observer.
Challenge by choice.
Challenge by choice.
Challenge by
Bam.
choice. You can be our observer and then talk about what you saw happening. How about that? I get you.
That's a yes.
I feel, I feel your pain.
That's good. I'll observe.
All right. And if you're having trouble coming up with one, you could say, I pass, and then we'll go on to the next one. But we'll probably be going around. It'll be a few minutes. It won't be a really long time, but it'll be about 3 or 4 minutes. Okay. You guys okay with that?
Let's go, baby. Let's go.
All right.
Let's go.
So yeah, I had trouble sleeping last night because I was worried about the setup for the activity, and man, I didn't want it to flop.
So, you had a hard time sleeping last night?
I did, and I usually sleep pretty well, but there were so many things that I was worried about, like where was I going to get that maze on? I needed tables that the magnetism would go through.
Sounds like there was some anxiety kind of going on with this new process that you came up with and hoping that it worked well with the audience.
You know, I wanted to come up with a new activity. I was challenged when Frank said, you know, can you do the magnetic ball activity? And I'm going, yeah, I'll do it. I want to do it. But then I'm going, oh my God, a magnetic ball activity? What in the world am I going to do?
So I hear that you're putting a lot of thought into being creative and coming up with innovative activities for the group.
I like doing that. Yeah, I like doing that. And sometimes I don't think I am doing it enough. And sometimes I think I stay too much in the comfort zone. So I did feel comfortable with you guys to take that plunge to do something a little bit kind of edgy in terms of my own new kind of activity.
I like that you came out of your comfort zone, although you didn't get a lot of sleep the night before. You still persevered and you moved forward to complete success.
I will say there were times I thought of just finding an excuse not to do it. And there were the times I thought about that.
I'm glad that you did.
Okay.
Sounds like you were willing to push yourself a little bit to accomplish what you want.
You know, I this morning was even worse because we were going to go get I thought an alternative is to get these foam boards that are very stiff, like the ones I use. And I'm thinking, we'll stop at a drugstore and buy 3 or 4 of them. They're pretty cheap. I'll like create this big panel, set it up, prop it up on stuff. We went to the drugstore. They only had one little dinky one like that. And it's like, crap. What am I going to do? They're maybe going to have tables there that are thin, that, you know, that we'll be able to work.
So you were hoping that there would be tables that were thin because when you went back to the drugstore.
Yeah, I was like, what else
Your
am I going to
plan
do?
B, your plan A was dashed, but it sounds like
had a plan B, I didn't have a plan C. And you know, to be honest with you too, it really matters. I needed to do something that was going to impress you guys and Frank.
So the success of the group really is important, and it seemed to really push you in regard to your resiliency of all the challenges that were being thrown at you. You found a way to overcome them.
It turned out that way. I didn't think it was, I mean, I was hoping and I was being optimistic, but I really didn't know for sure. And that's the part that was kind of edgy. And it's like, but I'm still going forward. And then when we got here, and the first thing I'm looking at is I'm looking in the windows for tables. What do the tables look like? And then I came in here and I saw this table, and I'm going, oh, it's gonna work. You know, I saw those. Maybe that's because they've got this thing in the center, and I'm going, oh, okay. And then I carried an extra ball and a metal ball in my pocket as the testers. Okay, and so I'm going around, and all of a sudden, so I'm like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? And
You know, with all that being said, you know, I can imagine why you got a hard time sleeping. You know, you need to have all the right material, to give a good presentation, to be pleasing unto Frank. You know, yeah. Well, you know, you should be proud of what you did.
yeah. You know, this whole venture of doing this training, doing it with Frank, coming up to Detroit, has really pushed me to be a lot better than I always thought I was. I mean, just this whole and I kind of feel kind of blessed that this opportunity came up to do this, and it's been incredible. It's been mind-bending to go through this, and it's an opportunity to try new things, and yet it's good.
And Hector, I have to say, I'm just very proud that you took the time to think like further than you have in the past to make it an experience that was pleasant pretty much for everyone, including yourself, despite some of the anxieties and the feelings of overwhelmness you might have had.
I feel really good that it worked. I mean, it seems to have worked. I mean, there were a couple of little glitches and all that. I mean, you know, I think I know what I would do for the next time, but I had to do it at least once. And yeah, thank you. And no, I couldn't sleep. But I mean, I got to sleep. I think the best thing is just to stay up late enough that you just doze off. You know, and I don't know sleep a whole lot anyway. You know, just up early.
What we know about collaborative learning is that it was going to work anyway. Even if it didn't turn out the way that it did, which was wonderful, it still would have worked. That would have been a learning process also.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'll remember that for future, because it's sometimes I don't remember those things when I'm really nervous and seeing how that's going to happen. And when I can remember things that you say about that during that anxiety piece, it's the part that helps me have faith about the process. You know, and sometimes you don't really know, but you kind of have a gut feeling.
And talking about your anxiety, it sounds like it really comes from a place of just caring about the people you're going to be interacting with.
It's always helped me to do that. But I've learned it, and I didn't always have. It didn't come naturally. I think I was very withdrawn and very guarded, and it's been through child and youth care work, the transformational stuff, that's been my catalyst. You know, that came after the car accidents and all that stuff, and getting into child and youth care work was the vehicle that provided a scaffold or a structure for transformational learning. You know, and it has been, and to this day, it's that kind of broad process. Anyway, I think we're going to stop because there's still some more.
Can you talk a little bit more about how the car accidents and the transformation, like how that relates back to caring more about what it is that you're doing in there?
I was in mechanical engineering when I was 17, when I was starting college, and I was drinking a lot and partying. I was 18, 17, 18, and in mechanical engineering, I was bored. It was not doing it. I was always good at fixing things. I figured that was what I was going to do. But when I got into mechanical engineering, it just wasn't doing it, and things were not going well. And then the 2 car accidents, I was in the hospital both times, within 6 months of each other, and I was getting drafted into Vietnam. And then after the car accidents and after the whole Vietnam thing, I didn't go into Vietnam because when I showed up for the exam, they asked me if I'd been hospitalized, and I said yes. And then the doctor interviewed me, and it turned out I had an abnormal EEG, so it brought me a medical deferment. And then I had a temporary medical deferment. And then when I went back to get back into school, I had to ask permission. I changed my major to psychology, because I figured, what is it that I would enjoy learning about? I didn't ask that question before when I got into mechanical engineering. And then when I went looking for work, what would I like to work at? I said, I'd like to work with kids. And I'd never asked myself that, and I'd never come up with that. So it was a catalyst for me after those car accidents. Those accidents for me were the disorienting, the dilemma. The shit turned my whole world around, you know. And so now it's more about, rather than waiting for another accident, I'm going in more receptive or being in tune with myself. Because I think before I wasn't very much in tune with myself at all. So
I hope that's another validation for you to be able to trust the process. Because that's not how you started, that's not what you were going to do, you were something totally different. And then something came along in the middle of living, that happens, and you did something different, but you were able to still move past it and do something else that was clearly a good fit for you.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
trust the process.
And I feel better, because before the while the accidents were happening, you know, if there was, I think I was probably clinically depressed. I think at the time, I was drinking a lot. I didn't feel so hot about myself and who I was and what I did and all that kind of stuff. How people related to me. I didn't feel like I had good friendship skills, and I was shy and all that kind of stuff, and I wasn't dating. And so after the car accident, and it wasn't all at once, it was a very gradual kind of, took years for that to happen, but it did, but I was open, I was waking up almost, is what it felt like, looking back at that. So. All right. Wow, well thank you guys.
It don't take
I
much to
didn't
get
know I
you
was going to go
talking.
there, but that's good. Thank you. Free
So
therapy.
how did that feel for you?
Free therapy. How did it feel? It was.
Did it feel like a
was-
conversation or an activity?
You know, I think in the beginning it felt like a conversation kind of skill kind of activity, but I think as we got into it.